Before I call the meeting to order, I do have a message from Mayor Pauline Rep. The mayor is the vice president of the Michigan Association of Mayors, and she had the opportunity to attend the National League of Cities Conference in Washington, D.C., so she is there. She apologizes. It's not her. She normally doesn't miss more than one or two meetings a year, let alone two in a row, so she just wanted to make sure that you understood where she was, and she is in Washington representing our city and working on our behalf, so we appreciate that. With that, I'd like to call the regular meeting to order. If the clerk would please take the roll.
Councilmember Ashford?
Present.
Councilmember Beeden?
Here.
Councilmember Harris?
Here.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Here.
Councilmember Warden?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald?
Here. Council has before them the minutes from the regular meeting of February 25th. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes as submitted?
Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes.
I actually have, just usually with our city council meetings here, we, as a public document, they're recorded and broadcasted out live, and then they're also are usually there for anybody who hasn't been able to view the meeting. They're able to go back, and I actually use it as a council member, usually within a week, to try to reconcile what happened, and especially when we get our agenda packet. And we have not had, for some reason, they're usually posted the next day on Tuesday, and we had a little, I think on Tuesday, on Wednesday, on Thursday, on February 28th, I inquired, and they still weren't anywhere out on the website. I couldn't find them anywhere, so I thought maybe they might have been in a different section for just the average person to see. And I think there was a response that it might have been some type of a technical difficulty of getting them uploaded. But I had concern on that, just so we can maybe address that in the future. I can find out kind of what happened, so we actually have access to that. And I did, take the long route and put in a FOIA request in writing down here on Friday to see if I could at least get, some type of copy to be able to review. And I think today was when we finally got it posted up out there on the website, which was able to view. So I just have some concern, as that's one of the main things that really is our official, record along with the minutes here. I was not able to review that past meeting with timely enough to be able to go through these meeting minutes. But I just want to, if we can, kind of find out what maybe happened, or what in the future we could probably do to try to maybe do an extra backup that's easily accessible, so we don't have, almost a 2-week, delay of having that accessible.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, if I can, our YouTube channel is actually not our official recording of the city council meetings. Per the council rules and procedures as adopted by council, it is broadcast live, and then a recording is kept and is available for pickup at City Hall anytime anyone wants a recording. It's only been for the last 12 months or a little bit longer that we have been posting stuff to YouTube. I actually initiated that with IT a couple months ago. We did have an issue. It did get uploaded. It's uploaded now. I would encourage residents, if you want to copy the video and it's not on YouTube, because sometimes it doesn't record, sometimes we don't get broadcasted live, call down to the clerk's office. We can easily run you off a video at no cost for anyone, so you didn't have to wait till Thursday to ask. You just could have called and could have got you a copy right away.
Well, I just tried to do the normal route. Maybe I was just not being able to navigate the site, the new site that we have, so I was looking for a little help. Thank you.
Yeah, and Madam Chair, and that all fell under discussion, and I still support the motion to move.
Thank you.
Okay.
Stuart, is there a second?
Support.
Councilmember Pemberton. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as submitted signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay.
No.
We'll move on to presentations. And the clerk will read the first item, please.
Chief Joseph Platzer will present the annual Police Department report.
Mayor Pro Tem, Council, City Manager. So tonight, I'd like to present the 2018 annual report for the Police Department, and also a year in review. Should be coming up here. So we did complete a PowerPoint up here for you. So for 2018, we had 4 new hires as police officers. Officer Pomeranke, Officer Burge, Officer Richley, and Officer Dombeck. We hired a new support services officer, also the animal control officer, Officer Gerstenberger, a property room manager, last name of Shabin, a crime analysis, last name of Jacobs, a records and identification clerk, last name of Pelzer, and 2 cadets, Cadets Seavel and Cole. We also saw retirements in 2018. Jeff Baker retired, Sergeant Segi, and Sergeant Lee Height. We saw promotions. Captain Kuhn and myself were promoted. Sergeant Young was promoted from officer to detective, and then Lieutenant Barna, Sergeant Brisby, and Officer Gilbert to detective. And unfortunately and Officer Nick Godwin to sergeant. And also in 2018, unfortunately, we saw a tragedy with the loss of support services officer Dan Woodruff and the loss of Lieutenant Joel Wood. In 2018, we added a crime analysis person to our department. And what this person does is it takes all the crime data, looks at crime trends, looks at things that are happening in the city, and then we meet monthly to go over these crime trends. And with the information that she provides, we are able to look at hotspot policing. We are able to look at our resources and do we need to switch our hours around. Right now, our calls for service really drop after 2 a.m. and our calls for service increase after 10 a.m. So we'd like to be able to move our resources around where they're more productive and we can better serve the citizens of Port Huron. And one of the pros of the crime analysis is she does report reviews, and recently we've been getting hit hard with these counterfeit bills. So she came up with this flyer that we were able to put out on our Facebook page. We were able to give it to all our businesses in the city of Port Huron, and the day after we gave them this letter, we had a business call in, and we were able to make an arrest of a person that was trying to pass a counterfeit bill. And this person indicated that if it wasn't for this flyer, they wouldn't have known about the counterfeit money, and we were able to serve the citizens, and we're also able to make an arrest on this. The next video, before I go to it, is we're going to put our report on digital again this year. So what Officer Ish does, and he's the one behind all of this, he goes around and he interviews certain people through the police department. There will be a message from myself, a message from the captain, and he interviews different officers throughout the department. So one of the interviews that he did was with Officer Sly and our new explosive dog, Jade, and you'll see a video here.
I'm Jennifer Sly. I've been a police officer with Port Huron for 18 years and a K-9 officer for the last 15 years. So in 2018, we received some donations and we looked into getting an explosive K-9. This will be the first time the city of Port Huron has ever had an explosive K-9, and it'll be the first time that they've ever had 3 K-9s at once. Jade is a 11-month-old Dutch Shepherd. She'll be a year old next month, and she is currently in training to detect explosive odors. When her training is complete, which hopefully will be this summer, she will be trained in roughly 25 to 30 different odors. Jade's an important tool for our department. She's able to assist at the international border with any sort of threats that may occur up there. She can assist in threats in the schools, local businesses, or simply anything that you get in the mail that you think is suspicious. So a little bit about Jade's personality. She's very independent. She loves to play, and occasionally she'll stay still enough for you to pet her. I think Jay's a pretty big high for 2018. It's awesome.
So this will be our digital report on our Facebook page, which will be available sometime in the end of March. So to go over our statistics for the year, as you can see, our calls for service increased in 2018. We were a busy year. Crime reports also increased. We saw an increase of 43% of criminal sexual conduct. Now, when you look at that, we studied this to see why the increase. It's not like we have a serial rapist in Port Huron, but what we see is last year there was a high-profile case with the Larry Nassar incident. And when those usually occur, we usually receive more reports. Also through CPS, we received, which is the Law Enforcement Notification Network, an increase from 112 complaints being assigned to us in 2017 to 131 complaints in 2018, so that's where the increase comes. And after the investigations, we found that some of these reports were not classified properly either. You'll see an increase in arsons, but that was because we had one suspect going around, if you remember, starting dumpsters on fire. And our major crimes unit was able to locate and arrest that person. Homicides, unfortunately, stayed the same. We had one, that was the murder-suicide last year. Auto theft increased, but when we studied auto theft too, what we found out that there's no chop shops occurring in Port Huron, that 19 out of the 56 involved known suspects. A lot of times it was civil. 10 out of the 56 people left their keys in the car, running. And then 14 of the 56 were unknown suspects. And like last night, actually we had a person that left their car running. The car was stolen. Marysville was actually able to locate it. A pursuit ensued and the suspect was taken into custody. Larcenies were up, but that was because of the Rick Curry case. Last year we took 177 reports because of the Rick Curry case. So if it wasn't for the Rick Curry case, our larcenies would have been down last year. Good sign, robberies decreased by over 14%. MDOPs, a little increase there, same with home invasions, only by 2. Juvenile arrests decreased, but our traffic violations increased by 14%. So that shows me that our officers are out there being proactive when it comes to traffic enforcement. Parking also increased, and then a good increase here in our behalf, 38% increase in OWI, operating while intoxicated. So that means our officers were out there being proactive, taking drunk drivers and drivers that were under the influence of narcotics off the street. And under that, we're going to study that this year again because Officer Sarah Cook just completed the DRE, the Drug Recognition Expert class that took a month for certification. And she's now only 1 out of 3 people here in St. Clair County that's an expert in that field to recognize drivers that are under the influence of narcotics. Accidents decrease, which is a positive. Our fatals decreased by 1, along with our injury accidents. Again, that goes hand in hand, I believe, with the traffic enforcement. Online reporting decreased by 13%. Now, we still push the online reporting, but a lot of times the citizens want an officer to come out and take the report, and we're happy to oblige them. So we direct them with these minor reports, say your mailbox gets damaged and there's no suspects. We direct them towards the online reporting, but they still want an officer to come out, so we'll go out and take the report. So that's why we see the decrease in the online reporting. So that's our annual report. Again, there will be copies available towards the end of March. I also included a slide up here regarding phone numbers that's available to our Criminal Investigation Division, Major Crimes, our capture program, along with the Community Service Bureau. I want to thank Officer East, who completed this program, or the PowerPoint for me. And I personally want to thank the men and women of the Port Huron Police Department, because they're the ones out there answering the calls for service. They're the boots out on the street. Captain and I's job's pretty easy. We just got to keep the ship facing north, as we call it. And I want to thank the citizens of Port Huron for our collaboration and our partnership that we have with them.
Thank you, and thank you for all you do.
Chief, don't go nowhere, I got a question. I'm not getting out of here. The hand clap. You
can't leave
your
that
hand
quick.
clap and go out of here. Okay. You mentioned on one of your Pareto charts that I saw where the juvenile had increased on that. Do you have any ideas as to why, what
The
prompted
juvenile
that?
arrest,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
decreased.
It decreased?
They decreased for the year.
Oh, okay. Well, what was it, you know, because we're doing a lot with parks and we're trying to
I-
promote more things with recreation, so,
I think the recreation, I think our school resource officers being in the school, with Officer Phillips and Officer Heisman, they have contact with the students daily. They have an open line of communication that they're able to explain to them about the new vaping ordinance that went into effect, about marijuana, about curfew. So I think it's more of us being proactive, reaching out to the youth at a younger age, and that's why I think we're seeing the dip in the arrest.
so the officer in the school was a good proactive move.
Yes, very, very much so. Every day we get complimented, not only from the parents, but from the school district for the work that Officer Phillips and Officer Heisman's doing. And not only the high schools, but all the elementary and middle schools that they reach out to.
Okay. And then I was reading our reports before I came to the meeting tonight from the manager, and it seems like we still have a real huge problem with drug abuse. You want to speak to that to some degree?
I mean, every month we look at that. I mean, you know, some months we have 3 or 4 overdoses, some months it's 10. Occasionally 1 to 2 deaths that occur from it. I know that we have 2 officers assigned out to the drug task force. The drug task force is out there every day doing proactive work, kicking in doors and making arrests. I think that we've made headway when it comes to the narcotics investigations, but we still got a lot to go to. I mean, like this weekend, we arrested 3 people for possession of meth. We had a robbery this weekend, which we believe will probably be drug-related. So not only is the drug task force out there, but our major crimes unit is out there daily trying to make the arrest and make the city of Port Huron a safer place.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Chief?
Yeah, Madam Pro Tem, Chief Platzer, you mentioned that the digital is going to be online. You mentioned the Facebook page. Is it also going to be on our city website, like the regular website link?
Yes, yes. So, like I say, we're hoping to have it all completed and ready to go by the end of March.
Outstanding job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mayor Pro Tem, we should mention the job that Officer Each did on this presentation
Yes.
is clean, because last year was kind of busy, you know, it was like one of them hidden puzzles, but this one is, I like it.
I told them to make it simple.
You did,
as
so,
possible.
yeah, and that's what, yeah, you know, people are not interested in it, we're really interested in the meat of it, you know, what's happened here, but it was just too much, but this one.
He does a great job, and he's also our
Yeah.
community service officer and our DARE officer, so he does very well for us.
Okay, well, that's a great job, and thank you for all you do.
And thank you for your support.
Thanks again, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
We will move on to public hearings, and the clerk will read the first item.
To hear comments on the proposed 2019 annual action plan.
Now is the time for anyone in the audience who wishes to address the council concerning public hearing number 1 to come to the podium, give your name and address for the record.
James Fisher, 816 Court Street, Old Town Historic Neighborhood. I came to speak in favor of the proposed annual action plan, the Community Block Development Grant money. I know what that's done in our neighborhood, all the various programs that it's had, the facade grants, years ago we had the roofing grants that went through, the project brush up that we have, all the various things, the Urban Pioneer Program that has actually put a few of our neighbors into their homes. It's wonderful, and I'm glad to see that the city continues to focus on neighborhood and neighborhood improvement.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to address the council on public hearing number 1?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, just to point out to council that the acquisition of property, the assist with the purchase of a site for emergency shelter, that is the Blue Water Rescue Mission. They had requested to be incorporated in our plan. They're not here tonight to speak to it, but they are incorporated into the plan. Page 11.
Sharon Bender, South Boulevard, Port Huron. Thank you, City Manager, for bringing that up. I appreciate that very much. I did speak in favor of it, and I continue to speak in favor of it. It's a wonderful program all around. It helps all of our low and moderate income people. and we really need to do what we're doing and continue to do what we're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to council on this issue? Seeing no one, I declare public hearing closed. We will move on to public hearing number 2. Clerk will read that, please.
To hear comments on the proposed Michigan Department of Natural Resources Land and Water Conservation Fund grant application in an amount up to $300,000 to assist with the creation of an outdoor skate park facility and related park amenities at Optimist Park. Following the hearing, council will consider a resolution to authorize the submission of the grant application, and if funds are awarded, authorize the acceptance of the offer and provide for the required funding match.
Now is the time for anyone in the audience who wishes to address the council concerning public hearing number 2 to come to the podium, give their name and address for the record, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald and council, I just wanted to quickly, before the hearing came up, I had a couple questions via email. I know Councilman Ashford as well had a couple on this one. The proposed parking area that you see in the map is just proposed. We don't have funding for it. It was just kind of to give us an idea if the park continues growing the way we're seeing it now, for the way future, it's not in this particular grant. So just so you're aware of that. And number 2 would be the fence. So a couple people brought that up. We're not proposing any new fencing, just the fencing that's there now. And the fencing that is there now is in the playground area so that we don't have kids running in the street. And then also in the basketball area, so again, ball rolls in the street, we don't have kids running after a ball. So just to kind of clear that up, I know we did hear some comments of people that were a little bit concerned about that, and that's the reasoning there. Also, a third thing that we heard on was trees, and understand that the only ones that are coming down are the ones that are dead and diseased on this particular project, and the skate park community is willing to work around some of the other ones that are more mature. So I just wanted to clear that before we got started, so thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem and council members, thank you for allowing me to come back before you again this evening. While we're on this topic in Optimist Park, I just wanted to make sure that we gave a quick shout out to Zimmerman Roofing and ABC Supply Company. Zimmer Roofing last year, as you'll remember in the summer in August when we did the Build to Play event, and the whole community, we had over 200 volunteers, and a lot of you were there, and I want to thank you again. It was just a wonderful day, very busy and active time. They wanted to get involved, and they said, what can we do? And we took a look at the pavilion that is there, and it was in desperate need of a new roof. And so they very graciously said, once the park activity slows down, the colder winter months, and we're not in anyone's way, and we don't have to worry about equipment going across the grass and making a mess, and, we would be happy to put a new roof on. And so that has been completed, and I just want to make sure that we give them that thank you that they deserve. We very much appreciate their involvement in the betterment of the park throughout the last few months, and in particular, the roof at the pavilion. So I wanted to make sure we acknowledge that tonight. It's my pleasure to be here again and helping with the rec department and with the city and yourselves and applying for grants to make our parks and recreation programs the best that they can be for our children and our families, and for those that visit our area and look to Port Huron and want to know what is there to do. We have a lot to offer, and we always want to put our best foot forward. So thank you again for allowing us to be a part of that and your support.
Thank you for all you do to help us with that.
Hey, my name is John Epley, and I just wanted to talk briefly in support of the skate park grant process. And one of the things I just wanted to emphasize was I started working at Alpine Cycles, it's a skate shop downtown. My father and his brother own it. And I started working there because it's right next to SC4, and it was a job to get me through college. And I had no real plans of staying there afterwards. But the longer I worked there, the more, what brought me in was how excited everyone was when they walked in. Everybody walked in excited for whatever it was they were coming in for, whether it's a bike, a skateboard, or anything. And so I never grew up into these things, but the more that I talked to these people, the more that I got excited with them, and the more that I wanted to try all their different sports. And what I noticed most about the skate park project, now that I've graduated and I've decided I'd like to stay in town, mostly because of the community that I've seen grow, the skate park project has shown a tremendous amount of public, it's grown a tremendous amount of spark in the public interest. So beforehand, people would say, oh, what you guys are doing are cool, but now people will come to us with ideas. And every time we tell them about this potential skate park, people will come to us with all these different things that they want to do to incorporate to make it right. Where beforehand, there was kind of a distaste for the skate park that we had, and it wasn't quite as respected as it should have been. And this project has brought out a lot of the people that had beforehand would not have been interested in all these different skate projects. So I just wanted to come today and show my support. As someone who also was never really interested in skateboarding or BMXing and never really saw the value in it, I wanted to show that there is a huge amount of support outside of just those who would be using the park as well. Thank you.
John, could you give us your address for the record, please?
Oh, I apologize. 3120 East Woodland Drive.
Thank you.
Thank you for choosing to stay in Port Huron.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Jacob Hager, 4560 Griswold Road, that's Kimball. And I just, as a BMX rider, wanted to speak on what a skate park does for the community, as well as why we need an upgraded one. Through my experience, I travel miles and miles away to ride different skate parks. It's definitely an attraction. As far as like getting kids into the sport, giving them something else to do, we've done many events at like other skate parks that are fairly local, like in St. Clair, and there's always huge turnouts, and the community definitely gets involved. And as far as why we need an upgrade, ours is very convenient for me to go to, and I don't go to it, so I don't think anybody else outside of Port Huron would go out of their way, to go to this skate park. So a new updated skate park would definitely bring in more people and help out the businesses around it as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to address council on this issue?
Sharon Bender again on South Boulevard in Port Huron, and I'm also in support very much. Lori Semple, when one of our former mayors had this concept because her kids were teenagers at that time, and I think that this is just beautiful that we're doing this for the kids.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to address council? Seeing no one, I declare the public hearing closed. Do I have a motion to adopt this item?
So move.
Councilmember Ashford, is there a second?
Support?
Councilmember Pemberton, is there discussion?
Pro Tem.
Councilmember Harris.
If I may, I'm glad Nancy got up here and spoke, because my thoughts were opened up by phone calls and emails that I got about the parking in the area there. And I do think parking wouldn't be an asset to the park. I like the ideas of these gentlemen that are promoting the park and making it, they will make it bigger and better. And I hope the end result is that we get some of the skaters who try out their skating enthusiasm at Pine Grove Park will now find a new place where they can really exercise the way they should be. So thank you very much.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Councilmember Warden.
I just want to thank not only Kim Harmer and Nancy Windsor, and also the people that came out to share. Really appreciate you guys come out to share some of the interest and the feedback as far as your right here in town as a next generation working in the cycle business and having that front access, hearing the people's interest and what they would like and not like. But I, with all these grants, I'm in full support, because we're submitting an application, hopefully to get it. I got 100% support it, and then if we do, hopefully get awarded some money for that up to that amount, I think it'll be great for our city. So thank you very much for putting that time in.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, if there's no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Beeden?
Yes?
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald?
Yes. We will move on to public hearing number 3. The clerk will read this item, please.
To hear comments on the proposed Michigan Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund grant application in an amount up to $300,000 to assist with the creation of an outdoor skate park facility and related park amenities at Optimus Park. Following the hearing, City Council will consider a resolution to authorize the submission of the grant application, and if funds are awarded, authorize the acceptance of the offer and provide for the required funding match.
Now is the time for anyone in the audience who wishes to address the council concerning public hearing number 3 to come to the podium, give their name and address for the record.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald, council. I just wanted to get back up and explain, because you're probably wondering why we have two going at the same time. Sometimes different grants score different points in different pots, so we're trying both, and I want to remind everyone, Kim's successful writing on the Ralph C. Wilson, Tony Hawk grant, so that's $250,000 that she's already gotten for us. So this is really, both these, we're putting them in there with the state to get our other side of the match. So that's why we have them in both pots. So,
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to address council? Seeing no one, I will declare a public hearing closed. Do I have a motion to adopt this item?
So moved.
Councilmember Pemberton, is there a second? Second. Councilmember Harris. Any discussion? The clerk will take the roll.
Councilmember Beeden?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald.
Yes. We'll move on to public hearing number 4. The clerk will read the item, please.
To hear comments on the proposed Michigan Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund grant application in an amount of $50,000 to assist with improvements to play equipment and related park amenities for greater accessibility at Gratiot Park. Following the hearing, council will consider a resolution to authorize the submission of the grant application, and if funds are awarded, authorize the acceptance of the offer and provide for the required funding match.
Now is the time for anyone in the audience wishing to address the council concerning public hearing number 4 to come to the podium, give your name and address for the record. You're busy tonight.
yes. Mayor Pro Tem Archibald, which I really hate to think about that for us. It's a lot of words. Just, we took an assessment of all the playscapes throughout the city. Because we have 23 different playscapes. They all went in about the same time, late 80s, early 90s, and they're all aging at the same time. So what we've done is took an outside playground person and our certified playground person, Ben Pyack, and looked at all of the playscapes throughout the city and ranked them in order of which ones need them the most, and we're going to apply every year from that list. So that's why Gratiot Park is one of the first ones. It's in dire need of a new skate pier soon. So again, you'll see them in both pots, and again, we'll get one or the other. You never get both, but that's for scoring purposes. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to address council?
Sharon Bender again, South Boulevard. I'm one of those people who has adopted one of the parks, and I want to speak to the fact that our employees for our city really do a great job maintaining our parks. As you've already been told, they were all put in at around the same time. We've been the fortunate recipients of a couple of new pieces of equipment that even the kids coming back from college like to play on. So not only do the adults play the basketball courts and all of that, but the children from all ages have something that interests them. They're handicap accessible. They're kept clean. We're supposed to do that, and we do, with the help of community service workers too. But I really want to commend them so much for the way that they go about trying to get the grants, hedging their bets with different aspects, and I really am wonderfully pleased with how our city tries to take care of our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to address council? Seeing no one, I will declare the public hearing closed. Do I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Councilmember Warden. Is there a second?
Support.
Councilmember Beeden. Is there discussion?
Mayor Pro Tem,
Councilmember
Just real
Warden?
quick, comments again, not just for this, but the other one, again, compliment and recognize how outstanding our team here is, that you guys take the time to write these grants, go after these grants, try to submit them in to help, try to get some money, funding to help improve these parks and rec properties. So I just want to thank you again, and hopefully we are very successful with these two submissions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, the clerk will take the roll.
Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton.
Yes.
Councilmember Warden.
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford.
Yes.
Councilmember Beeden.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald.
Yes. We'll move on to public hearing number 5, and the clerk will read this item, please.
To hear comments on the proposed Michigan Department of Natural Resources Passport Program grant application in the amount of $70,000 to assist with improvements to play equipment and related park amenities for greater accessibility at Gratiot Park. Following the hearing, council will consider a resolution to authorize the submission of the grant application, and if funds are awarded, authorize the acceptance of the offer and provide for the required funding match.
Now is the time for anyone wishing to address the council concerning public hearing number 5 to come to the podium. Give your name and address for the record, please.
I guess I'm the spokesperson for
It's
full
quite all
support.
right.
Full support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to address council on this issue? Seeing no one, I will declare public hearing number 5 closed. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Councilmember Warden and Councilmember Ashford. Any discussion? The clerk will take the roll.
Councilmember Pemberton.
Yes.
Councilmember Warden.
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford.
Yes.
Councilmember Beeden.
Yes.
Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald.
Yes. We'll move to public comment portion of our meeting. If anyone in the audience wishes to address the council on any agenda item or any item under the city's jurisdiction, now is the time to do so. You'll have up to 4 minutes for your comments. Please give us your name and address for the record.
Scott Farquhar, 1018 Varney Street. Mayor Pro Tem Archibald, everyone's familiar with me. I've spoke to the council before, and I'm kind of coming at a different angle or a different way. I'd like to compliment Port Huron Police Department, the parks, streets, on the fine job that they did this winter. I believe every major storm, there wasn't, the streets were very well taken care of. Obviously, it's springtime, and that's a whole nother, chore for them, which I'm sure they will. One thing that I would like to put some concern in, I'm sure our city manager, Mr. Freed's he's done a good job the last couple of years, but we do have the thaw coming very soon. Dredging the canal so the ice flows, busting the ice up. If that's available, that's something we should look at very, very soon, within the next couple of weeks here. Otherwise, we could end up with a mess like we did 4 or 5 years ago. The water is higher now than it ever has been. I'd also like to compliment the council and Nancy, Rex, of the different activities over the winter and last summer. I guess a suggestion, and I don't know who, I know the council has a little bit to do with it or input. They have the concerts for that we're having at McMorran during Boat Week. I guess a suggestion, maybe look in the future, it would be great to keep family night for family and move the Thursday concert to Saturday. It puts one more day of people downtown Port Huron. And lastly, I got to complain about something. The Water Street Marina, since when they first redid that years ago, the boat launch, I'm sorry, not marina, real good. The last few years, it's been very, very trying. You go to pull your boat out, and you think you're driving down Water Street. There's that many potholes in the parking lot itself, and it's fairly new. Over the last 2 years, there's been talk of Riverside Marina being redone. I didn't get a chance to talk to Nancy before. I know it's been close, it's been close, it's been close. But word on the street or whatever is Water Street's paid for with parking passes for launching boats. Something has to be done. Boating is a huge asset to the city of Port Huron. It's a big moneymaker, as all of you will agree. It draws a lot of people from all over the world, not just Michigan, United States, and Canada. There are people all over that talk about our boating community in this area. Sheriff's Department do a great job. Coast Guard does a great job. I think we need to look at some of that to promote a little more. And again, thank you very much for what you guys do.
Thank you, Scott. Ice breaking will commence within 2 weeks, just so you know.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Chris Troy, 1229 7th Street, Port Huron. I'd like to thank the council for allowing us to speak tonight on a few issues. I'll try to keep my ideas here short, though for those who know me, know that's usually a rarity. I'm here to comment on the proposed zoning changing in the Historic Court District. You're all from around this area, and you all probably remember as much as I do in the 80s and 90s that district and the problems that it had. And yet a few urban pioneers moved into that district, and they started to refurbish that district. They started to restore the homes, though people probably told them they were nuts to do it. But they did. And pretty soon there was another and another. And then that street became a neighborhood. And what happened then is they got together and they started the Neighborhood Watch. And with the Neighborhood Watch, they not only started calling and reporting everything that seemed strange, but they created a police presence then in the area. Then they went on, worked together in the whole area, identifying each property, each home, who built it, its history, and its architectural style. And they took all that information to Lansing, and they created a historic district, a state-recognized, protected historic district. But they didn't end there. They then went on, and they came to the City Planning Commission, and they said, the best way to add stability to this neighborhood, because that's the thing we all want. We want stability. The best thing we can do is to have our zoning changed and have it zoned the residential one. Well, the Planning Commission, of course, thought that was a great idea, because after all, who would not want stability in your neighborhoods? Well, about that time, my wife and I, who were living down in St. Clair, were carefully watching this. Because, again, for those who know me, know I have a passion and a love for the history here in this community. As soon as that zoning was changed to R1, that was a green light to us to turn ahead, come up here, and purchase the old Victorian Inn. We have spent hundreds, I mean hundreds of thousands of dollars restoring that building. And we're not there yet. We still have a lot to do. But it's funny. When we started this, because I have a lot of friends in historic preservation, they all said, you should start a little website or something, just so people can keep an eye on what's going on and you can tell the stories. Because everybody kept stopping during the renovation this summer outside and saying, when's it going to open again? And they were all disappointed when they found out it was just going to be a single-family home. Because that's our plan. That's my wife's and I home. So we started the website. Well, would you be surprised that we have, and I checked before I came here today, 5,200 people that have linked onto that website and follow our renovation. Not only that, but we have stacks of cards and letters from people thanking us, telling about their weddings, their anniversaries, their engagements, homecoming dinners, and how appreciative everyone is that we're saving that house. Well, the only reason we did that was because of that zoning, because we wanted to know if we were going to invest that kind of money, we would be in a protected area. We would have an area that would not only be protected, but would grow. And since we've just been there in May, we have 4 new homeowners who are coming in who are equally as passionate as I am about fixing up their yards, restoring their homes. And speaking of fixing up, are you aware that the historic downtown group, they get together almost monthly in the summer, and they weed, and they pick up garbage in all the alleys. They help out any seniors who live in the area who maybe can't keep their properties nice. They help them out.
Mr.
their
Troy, I'm
neighbors.
sorry, your time is up.
Is my time up?
It is.
You know, well, I think you have my idea, or you know what I'm saying.
Thank
And you
you.
know how I feel about the rezoning of the area, or not even the area, but doing any spot zoning at all. Because after all, that's kind of not cool. So thanks a lot. Have a great night.
Are you the YouTube history guy?
I am the YouTube history guy.
That's all I want to know. I thought I recognized you from the YouTube history guy.
Yeah, so remember, history lives in all of us, folks. So, thanks a lot.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald, City Council, Manager Freed, Clerk Johnsek. James Fisher, 816 Court Street, Port Huron. And I wish to speak to you tonight about a vital item that is not yet on your agenda, but soon will be before you. And I'm speaking of the rezoning of the entire 700 block of Court Street from R residential to CBD, Central Business District. I am against this rezoning request, and I'd like to tell you why. The city's goals in Old Town neighborhood have been consistent for years: to reduce the density of housing units, to encourage home ownership, to support the return of multifamily residences to single-family homes. And not only has this been Port Huron's stated policy, it has been backed up with CDB grant funds to convert multifamily homes back to their original single-family use. The Urban Pioneer Program to assist with down payment of neighborhood homes. Project Brush Up to reduce the blight and to beautify neighborhoods. Grants to homeowners for roofs, porch restoration, and more. In fact, you'll be voting tonight on your list of goals and priorities for the 2019-2020 year, and your number one goal is keeping the neighborhood revitalization programs. In 1996, consistent with the Port Huron Master Plan, City Council approved the rezoning of Old Town from A1 medium density to R1 single and two-family homes. Less than 12 months ago, Old Town residents walked the neighborhood to ask our neighborhoods about rezoning. Let me say that differently. We walked our neighborhood. We walked our neighborhood. We knocked on every house door in our neighborhood to ask our neighbors about rezoning. We asked if there was a consensus. We wanted to see if there was a consensus of support to rezone to R. Not only were our neighbors supportive, they were ecstatic. Many folks, and renters included, pitched in a few bucks to pay for the zoning filing fees. We as neighbors paid all the filing fees necessary to get our neighborhood rezoned. I was surprised when I received the notice that the 700 block of Court asked the Planning Commission to be rezoned to CBD. I have given you a map of that area, and as you can see, this entire city block penetrating into a residential neighborhood. We did not seek these advances, and we feel violated to have a CBD zone thrust into our residential neighborhood. We as neighbors can't even fathom how members of the Planning Commission and the City Council could even consider voting yes on this proposal. It is inconsistent with the city's master plan. Land use number 2 goal on page 18 of the master plan states, discourage incompatible land use expansion into residential neighborhoods by supporting defined boundaries of regional institutional uses. Land use goal number 4 on page 19 states, continue to allow institutional uses such as schools, churches, and small neighborhood businesses to develop within neighborhoods. The master plan does not indicate this block being converted into a CBD. It shows the remaining church surrounded by residential. I wish to point out that churches and normal church activity functions are fully allowed in residential districts. Obviously, this rezoning, what's going to be there is not a church and is exceeding normal church functions by far. We do not object to any services that they're going to offer. We do object to a commercial business entity being thrust into our residential neighborhood. Port Huron is a zone community, and zoning is crucial to Port Huron's continued revitalization. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your continued support to the Old Town Historic Neighborhood.
Good evening. My name is Sherry Smith. I live at 835 Court Street in Port Huron. I do realize that the rezoning of the Old Town District is not on agenda today. However, those of us who are residents in the district believe that we should speak out on the issue, which will be forthcoming shortly. And just for the record, I am adamantly against rezoning the area in question to a CBD zone. Lately, I spend a lot of time in the Detroit area in an endeavor I'm undertaking, and I'm surrounded by quite a number of people who are involved in preservation and the history of Michigan in general. My compatriots know that I make the drive and know that I am from Port Huron. Just this past Saturday, one of them said, and I quote, "I have no interest in St. Clair County, let alone Port Huron." That's sad, really. But I do understand. The perception of Port Huron is not good. People know how beautiful it is here, but they don't come to shop or dine or share in the beaches or rent a cottage for a summer vacation. Not new people, anyway. And they won't unless the perception of Port Huron changes. 6.5 years ago, I bought my home. I was told by a reputable realtor in Richmond not to buy in Port Huron. He told me that Port Huron is a mess and will always be a mess. At that time, I was in a tough spot. My profession, my background is in construction management. I was an assistant building inspector for another state. It all had disappeared with the recession. And I had been struggling to figure out my future, that was 2012 when this occurred. With my retirement accounts empty now, because I had to use everything I had to get by, I arrived in Port Huron with a few dollars from my 2011 tax return. That's all I had. But I was determined, and I applied for a realtor position and was immediately hired and began selling homes. I was earning some, and this was 2012. Still not a good year for real estate. An acquaintance knew I was a realtor and heard there were cheap places to buy in Port Huron. He is from out of state, but wanted to find a way to earn money with his money. As it turns out, he agreed to buy the house for me, and I would buy it from him on land contract. Still, against the warnings of the realtor in Richmond, I did it. There are a few things in the neighborhood that is not very pleasant. More lately, actually. Needles are now being found in yards and sidewalks. Empty booze bottles everywhere. And I say everywhere, not everywhere, but a lot more. One of our nearby neighbors appears to be dealing from his home. We are doing surveillance, and we'll be reporting to the police department when we have something we feel is credible. Our newest neighbor to the Old Town District, who couldn't be here this evening, told me just last night that Jerry Saunders' yellow house on 9th Street is being dealt out of too. I'm wondering why the change now. Why the people are walking down the streets with suitcases, having just come off the bus. Why the variety of people are wandering around and whom we've never seen before. But we found out the last Planning Commission meeting just why. Before that, it was a mystery. You see, this is a lovely place to live. We love our home. We love the proximity to shopping and the restaurants. We love the history here. Our neighbors are some of the most considerate, helpful people I've known. Previously to the downsizing of my income, I've traveled a great deal, spent time in different countries and different states. I've never had a close neighborly relationship as I have today. And that includes some of our neighbors who don't own homes, but rent. We have become true friends and compadres. The downtown business district is trying very hard to make it work.
Sherry, I'm sorry, your time is up.
Is it? Okay. So now where I'm at. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Guy Lynch, 2415 Colonial Lane in Port Huron. The Center of Port Huron and First Congregational Church are not on the agenda tonight, and I wasn't expecting necessarily to make these comments, but because others are making comments about the rezoning, I feel obligated to state our case as well. We did have a traumatic meeting at the Planning Commission as we put in our application for rezoning, doing what we were told to do to comply as best that we could. We've bent over backwards to meet all the concerns of the neighborhood, including putting in a deed proviso that would say that should the Center of Port Huron or First Congregational Church cease to exist on that property, that it would revert back to residential zoning. We have done services of our type for the past 5 years in our location in the 700 block of Court Street. There have been several communication breakdowns as to what is actually done there. And it should be pointed out that this is not spot zoning. Someone was talking about spot zoning before. This is not, because both Grace Episcopal and Our Savior Lutheran are in business districts, in the business district. But the big thing that I think we need to understand is the property in the center is in the Old Town neighborhood, and our supporters largely come from that, and the supporters that were here during the Planning Commission meeting were from, many of them were from Old Town as well. But it should be pointed out that both, not only for this council, and I'm not telling you anything new to you, you know this, for this council and also for the Planning Commission, that they are the Planning Commission and you are the council for all of Port Huron, and you need to make decisions that's good for all of Port Huron and not just a neighborhood. And that doesn't mean that we are not for the best for this neighborhood. We will work cooperatively with everyone. We were not approached about the rezoning, nor did we receive anything in the mail that said that there would be a rezoning meeting for the original rezoning that rezoned us in whatever the last zoning was. So we have not been able to state our case in that way, only to do the application as we were directed to do. But we need to understand that Port Huron is the perfect storm for the opioid crisis because of the way the interstates can converge together, 69 and 94, and also our waterways. And you know, I'm not saying something out of school here. It was told to us by Sheriff Donlin. I believe it's been repeated by Chief Platzer. The opioid crisis is not going away, and if you will see it continue to increase when you take away something as vital as the center of Port Huron in its efforts to stem the tide of the opioid crisis, because everyone that is working on this crisis converges on the center. We have meetings in that place. Why? Because people say this is where we need to be to really stem the tide of the opioid crisis. This is an existential threat to us if we do not get some kind of plan in place that zones us in a proper way so that we can do business on that property and see to the welfare of not only people in Old Town neighborhood, but all of Port Huron, people that need our help. The reason that we may not have received the notice on the original rezoning is because of address issues. The mail is not received until after 5 on Court
Guy, I'm
Street.
sorry, your time is up.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Gary Goulet, 831 Court Street in the Old Town Historic District in Port Huron. Council members, city manager, and all in attendance. 2 Bible verses, Proverbs chapter 28, verse 9. If one turns away his ear from hearing the law, even his prayer is an abomination. Luke chapter 8, verse 17. For nothing is hidden that will not become evident, nor anything secret that will not be known and come to light. Feel free to follow these biblical principles if they apply to you or not. As a long-term citizen of Port Huron and the Old Town Historic District, I strongly object to the spot zoning of 723 Court Street. And as Mr. Fisher brought to light, it's the whole block. It's not just one address, it's the whole block in our historic district. This is a zoning issue to me. I am not against the works that are being done at the center. I am against the location those works are being done at in our residential neighborhood where we live, and I put live in quotes, we live there 24 hours a day. In the morning, at night, in the afternoon, we are there living. I boast constantly to friends, neighbors, anyone that will really listen to me, how cool it is to walk from our home, our neighborhood, at 831 Court Street downtown to the attractions. Bars, restaurants, movies. Who would have thought we'd have a 12-screen movie theater downtown that I could walk to? I was really excited about that. But I do. I boast about walking there. I boast about walking to the riverfront, hearing the freighter horns, on foggy mornings and church bells on Sunday. I brag to everyone about that and boast about it, and they sort of ridicule the neighborhood sometimes, like, oh, you live there on Court Street, huh? And again, anyone that will listen to it, I brag about the walkability. I have noticed on my many walks increased street trash, public intoxication. I witnessed public urination, increased vehicle and pedestrian traffic, loud music, not only from cars, but now it's coming from bicycles somehow. They're playing loud music. And most importantly, strangers walking around and through our neighborhood. I'm naturally curious and slightly suspicious of people I have not seen before in our neighborhood. Would you be? Would you be suspicious or curious? Who is that person walking down my street? Just a little bit? I'm not curious or suspicious of people I have not seen before in the downtown business area. I expect to see some of those type of activities or those people doing the aforementioned activities in the downtown area. So I'm not really, we're downtown, people are having fun, but when they're walking through the neighborhood and I don't recognize them, I'm a little bit suspicious. I should not expect to see strangers doing inappropriate things in public in my neighborhood, but I do. Who are the people that are the undesirable element to our neighborhood? I can tell you who it's not. It's not Mr. and Mrs. Fisher. It's not our friends and neighbors, Sherry and Jeff, Mr. and Mrs. Troy. It's not the bankers. They're not the ones doing undesirable things in our neighborhood. Or any other neighbors that reside and live in our residential neighborhood. I assume that most, if not all, of the city servants present here this evening have the best interest of our citizens in mind. I urge you to take a moment, all of you, just take a moment and really think through the long-term effects the rezoning would have on our neighborhood and the citizens, friends, and neighbors that live there. Not only the aesthetics of the neighborhood, the architecture, the views of the really cool houses.
I'm sorry, your time is up.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
I'm up again. I'd like to clear up a couple of things. At this past Planning Commission meeting, which I attended, there was a map shown, which I also reviewed at the library. The map shows that Wall Street that portion is A1. The map shows that's north. The map shows that west, or east rather, along 7th Street, the museum is right there, it's CBD. Our Savior Lutheran is next across the street, it's CBD. Grace Episcopal is over this way, and it's CBD. So there is no spot zoning, so let's clear that up. Then I would also like to point out that I do know Mr. Troy, and I know his work, and I very much respect it. He tried to purchase the St. Joseph Church Rectory. He tried to move it to St. Clair. I am gratified that he's chosen to move into the neighborhood of St. Joseph Church. Happily, I'm glad for that. But I must I'm getting very emotional. I'm so sorry. Take your time. I must disagree wholeheartedly that what this church is attempting to do is any different from any other church and what they're attempting to do. When we go out from St. Joseph into the neighborhood, we are trying to minister to the people in the community. And if we are good neighbors, and if we cite religious phrases from the Bible, we should be Christian. And we should think about not only what's good for us, but what's good for all of us. This city is composed of all different kinds of people. They have come here, and thanks to the wonderful work of our city administration and our legal department, they feel that they can get help. If we don't give them help, I have lived in an area in Detroit where they were not given help, where Synanon tried to come in, and they were not allowed to come in there. You want to talk about burglaries, because people are trying to get their drugs, and they'll do anything to do it. We are in a position to help, to combat crime, to combat a lot of dysfunction. And I urge you not to turn your heads and turn your backs to the people that need you. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Deidre Murch. I reside at 2507 Riverside Drive in Port Huron. And you know, you're right, history does live in all of us. It surprises me that a historian, that people that are proud of the Blue Water area would be for the oldest church in Port Huron shutting down. What's up with that? A church involved in the Underground Railroad, a place with heritage regardless of any affiliation that any of you may or may not have, is something we can all be proud of together. I'm a lifetime member of First Congregational Church. I was baptized there. I've been there my whole life. I'm also a co-founder of the Center of Port Huron, something I'm very proud of. My family has personal investments in that building. It was pointed out at the Planning Commission, well, you don't live in Old Town. Well, we have more in that building than we do in our own homes, so we might as well. It's not spot zoning either. As has been pointed out, I'm very familiar with the zoning map of Port Huron, the green Central Business District. It borders the center of Port Huron First Congregational Church. Rezoning that back to central business would only continue the zoning one more block forward. And it's interesting to me, as also has been pointed out, that other churches in the Old Town neighborhood have that zoning distinction already. Huh. You'd think they all should be treated the same. But honestly, what sickens me most of all, and I'm trying not to get emotional, is this not in my neighborhood mentality. So many of those serviced by this facility, they are your neighbors. Have we thought stepping forward and holding hands with them instead of trying to force them out of their own neighborhood? Our foot traffic is from the Old Town neighborhood. 2,000 to 3,000 people a month are serviced by the Center of Port Huron. At the Planning Commission, we submitted a petition signed by 125 people from that very neighborhood in favor of this zoning change. For some reason, that wasn't brought up. I agree with what all of you are saying. Your arguments show why this needs to be done. There is a drug problem. I don't think any of us can say there isn't. Why don't we all work together to get those people the help they need? I know that's what the Center of Port Huron is trying to do. That's what First Congregational Church is trying to do. I remember when we were batting around names, what do we call this place? The Center. For more than one reason. Not just because it would be a resource center where everyone could come, that would have all the services they need. Because we didn't know that yet. It was called that because it was in the center of the area that needed help. It only made sense to give it that name. As a 30-something traveler, some of you know me personally, I go to different countries, spend a lot of time in the United States as well. What encourages me to want to stay in Port Huron, what makes me tell my friends, you should come visit the Blue Water area, what makes some of them consider laying down roots here, isn't just our beautiful water. It's because people my age want a place they can believe in, a place that stands up for other people, a place that's willing to help lift people up. The Center of Port Huron does this, just that. I feel that what we can do together with the neighbors in Old Town is help lift the city up, help those that need it. And we can all do this as a team.
Deidre, I'm sorry, your time is up.
Thank you. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Greetings. I'm Kevin Banker, and I live at 825 Court Street.
and my wife and I have lived there for 23 years. I'm strongly opposed to the proposed rezoning of 723 Court Street from residential to CBD. Rather than speaking, my notes are here, so I'll get it to the point and be done. When we bought our historic home in 1996, Old Town had been allowed to decay in decades. I mean, heck, we lived out in the township. There were, drug deals, blight, rundown housing, gangs, graffiti. Many of us remember those times. And there's a lot more. Why the heck did we buy in this neighborhood? We bought our historic home and converted it from a 13-member residential group home back to single family only because the city, after decades of neglect, began to support the residential neighborhood. For the last 23 years, city policy and city council members have supported residential Old Town fully. The city master plan, downzoning to R1, financial support for facade grants, antique street lighting, the reduction in high-density housing. The members here and before researched and established a historic district, organized spring cleanups, home tours, and other activities, and of course, last year, rezoned. Now, fast forward, and Old Town has improved dramatically since 1996. It's not perfect, but it's a heck of a lot better than it was before. And it's due in large part both to the city and what the neighbors were doing. If 723 Court is rezoned, basically it's going to be a gut punch for us who put a lot of time and effort, needless to say, the hours and the thousands of dollars we put in. Home sales, property values are only now starting to recover from the recession. That's tough if you want to if you need to leave the neighborhood, if you'd like to do something else. So home sales and property values are not, they're not going to recover. Rezoning will discourage sales, cripple property values, and reduce property taxes, which are vital to solving some of your other problems here. And it will also send the message to other residential neighborhoods throughout the city that they're not really valued. Other things are more important. And of course, we pay both property and income taxes. Lastly, again, everything goes to location. It's not about good or bad or anything. They serve a purpose. But 723 Court, it's the gateway between downtown and Old Town, and the health of each depends on the other. Downtown success is supported by adjacent neighborhoods that are healthy and vibrant. It's a quick walk. It's good for travelers, for visitors, back and forth. And destabilizing Old Town is only going to backfire. It's not going to hurt just my property value, but it's going to stunt downtown's tentative revival. We need to think about today, 5 years from now, and 10 years from now. Whatever decisions happen now, we'll have to live with. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to address council this evening? Seeing and hearing no one, I declare public comment period closed. We will now move to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion? Move. Councilmember Ashford, is there a second?
Support. Mayor Pro Tem,
Councilmember Warden,
I'd like to take resolution number 5, resolution 19-027, and also resolution, looks like 19-030, off the consent agenda, please.
okay. The clerk will take the roll.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Beeden?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald?
Yes. Items adopted under the consent agenda include the following: authorizing a one-year extension to Unique Clips bid in the amount of $795 per mow and trim for lawn maintenance at various city-owned parks and properties. authorizing a one-year extension to Kevin's Lawn Care bid in the amount of $2,978 per application for lawn maintenance and weed control at various city-owned parks and properties. Approving the reappointments of Kevin Banker, Kathy Halth, and William Vogan to the Historic District Commission with terms to expire March 10, 2022, and the appointment of Sherry Smith with a term to expire March 10, 2021. We will move from the city manager. If the clerk would read the first item, please.
Accepting the quote from Island Tech Services in the amount of $123,975.47 for the purchase of body, in-car, and video room cameras and accessories with reimbursement of $38,352 through St. Clair County Emergency Management as part of the 2015 Homeland Security Urban Area Security Initiative Law Enforcement Terrorism Prevention Activity Grant Funding Program.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Pemberton, is there a second? Councilmember Harris, is there discussion?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, if I could give a quick explanation. You have your attached memo here from the Chief of Police regarding the need and what this will be doing. As you all probably remember, we had body cameras, some body cameras that came to the police department before, but they were the older model that were literally catching fire, and so they were not safe to wear, so they discontinued them. So they are working with the county to use a grant for $38,000 to purchase new body cameras. At the same time, the patrol car, in-camera patrol car systems are more than 7 years old, which are essentially outliving their lifespan. So it's time to get new dash cams for the patrol cars. By going together on this, also the L3 systems for the body cams are no longer in production. So that's the reason why we're purchasing these as well. So anyways, the reason why we are going all at once to purchase the body cams and the dash cameras at the same time with the same software is it helps with producing videos for whether FOIA requests, court documents, because it's all one software system. You can imagine having a software system for body cameras, a software system for dash cam, and a software system for the control rooms. So this will purchase smart by getting it all together so one person can be trained, the FOIA coordinator down there, to produce the videos. Another thing that's nice about the body camera software is it's specially designed for police officers for redaction. So for instance, when a police officer is wearing a body camera and it walks into your home, there are things that must be redacted that cannot be released to the public. This software does about 95% of that redaction on its own. And so it will help reduce staff time in redacting videos for FOIA release and court release. It will be paid for out of the motor vehicle fund as well.
Thank you. Any other discussion? The clerk will take the roll, please.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Beeden?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald.
Yes. We'll move on to, from the city manager, number 2, please.
Accepting the unit price bid for Bodie Construction Company Incorporated in the estimated amount of $49,125 for maintenance dredging of the Black River Canal entrance at Lake Huron and the depositing of the dredged materials waterward of Lake Huron's edge and no farther than the second sandbar within the approximately 820-foot-long area along Conger Street between Holland Avenue and 3470 Conger Street for the year 2019.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Ashford, second. Councilmember Pemberton?
Harris.
Harris, thank you. Is there discussion?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, just a quick explanation. This is again for dredging the canal. On page 24, third of the agenda item, you will see a history of the cost for annual dredging. Remember that we do have an agreement with our townships for cost sharing. Also, it is nice because for the last, honestly, as long as I have been here, we've only had one bidder or two bidders, and it's always been DeMarie or Torello, and it's nice having a third bidder Body Construction, which came in much more competitive. The reason for the high bid with DeMarie is they would dredge from a barge rather than the method which we dredge from the shore, which will be used, which we've historically done. We will also be dumping the materials further south of Holland to those residents who are in desperate need because of erosion issues. So it's kind of a win-win. We dredge and have a place to dump it for free type deal within our DEQ and DNR permit. So there's your explanation.
And we're still in, excuse me, ma'am, and we're still in compliance.
Correct.
Correct? And then also, that range 95 and 49 is still a quality job that's being executed.
Yeah, it's just the methodology and how they would do it.
Okay, thank you.
One last thing as well, that it was mentioned tonight that the river levels are high. That's actually good because we let the water levels get really high, and then we open the Tainer Gate, and it blows out a lot of material. In some years, we actually get it so blown out, we don't have to dredge for the first half of the season. My first year here, we dredged twice. My second year here, we dredged 6 times. At one point, they dredged it on Sunday, they left the loader out there, and on Thursday, it filled back in. So Mother Nature, in your prayers tonight, pray for the canal, so.
I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem, and the high price, is that based on the cubic yard?
Correct.
And that's why it goes up and down?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
So these are the actual costs of the material dredge. Some years it goes up, some years it goes down.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Councilmember Warden.
We had a pretty active neighborhood, whether it was official association or unofficial association, kind of there around the lakeside area from the canal down that shared a lot of different concerns. And I think, some of them were about some of the dredging and where the stuff was being deposited, or maybe even potentially how they're dredging from the land into the canal. I just want to, am I understanding that the aggregate that they're going to be dredging out the materials, they're going to take it down and it's going to be south? It's going to be Congress Street south or Holland down yeah.
Potentially,
So,
yes.
Okay, and I just didn't know if that's something that is going to be a little different, that might be because of their suggestion or feedback of some of that material.
Both. They were correct. The DEQ tells us where we can dump.
Okay.
So we were dumping them at Lakeside Beach, and we built ourselves a pretty decent-sized dune that got so high you actually had to walk down to the water. That wasn't by choice. That was by the DEQ, so we don't get to legally say. So we did petition, because what's ironic is you're building up all this sand at Lakeside Beach, but then just south of Holland, those homeowners are nervous because they have such an erosion issue that it's literally, they're building new steps down to the water. So this will be a win-win for getting the sand not being dumped at Lakeside Beach and moving it further to the homes that need it. So you are correct.
Yeah, I appreciate that information and definitely the feedback from a lot of those people that have, from that area and that neighborhood, that gave a lot of feedback on this over the last, I want to say last year or two. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Mayor Pro Tem,
Councilmember Harris.
I just wanted to compliment the city manager on his explanation. It's been many, many years since we've seen competitive bidding on it, and not just because of the competitiveness, it's $30,000 cheaper than the next bidder, so it's a win-win for everybody in Port Huron. Thank you.
Thank you. The clerk will take the roll.
Councilmember Beeden?
Yes?
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald?
Yes. We'll move on to, from the city manager, number 3, please.
Approving the bid from Do All Cleaning Incorporated in the amount of $21,800 for the exterior painting of the DPW Bancroft Warehouse and Salt Storage Buildings.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Ashford.
Support.
Second, Councilmember Beeden. Is there discussion?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, this will paint the building on Bancroft Street. I will just say this, it's very difficult to write fix-it tickets to residents for blight when our own DPW building was becoming blighted. So the people of that neighborhood, we apologize. We will get it painted and issue ourselves a fix-it ticket this week to clean up that site for you. We budgeted $100,000, and it only came in at $21,800, so excellent pricing.
So within budget.
Well under budget.
Real, okay.
Nice job. Any discussion? Clerk will take the roll.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Beeden?
Yes?
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald?
Yes. We will move to, from the city manager, number 4, please.
Accepting the bid from Independent Floor Covering in the amount of $12,166 for the repair and reinstallation of upstairs dance floor and lunch area at the Palmer Park Recreation Center.
Do I have a motion?
So moved?
Councilmember Pemberton, is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Harris. Is there discussion?
Yeah.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yeah, a dance floor, we putting carpet. I thought they don't dance on wood no more. Are they
It's,
gonna tore up the carpet?
it's not actually carpet that's
Oh.
going in. It's I'm not a dancer myself anymore. But it's a laminate flooring that will be conducive for all activities, including dancing. It's like a plank laminate flooring.
Oh.
It's very similar to what we put down in the foyer of McMorran.
Okay, so it is durable, 'cause that's.
Yeah, you'll still be able to
The
do it.
dances they do now, they be to tore that carpet up in no time.
Also, remember that Palmer Park receives lots of use all year round. It actually runs a summer feeding program there as well. We have a commercial kitchen there, so we've got our money's worth out of that carpet for sure.
You have, because it does look ragged. Yeah, I've been in there quite a bit, yeah. But I was just, like I said, I was just worried about that, carpet in the dance floor.
You'll still be able to dance.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Councilmember Warden?
Actually, is the second floor there, I was just over, actually, I was over there for something the last, I want to say the last 2-3 months, and I thought that when I checked out upstairs, does that have that little area that's got the parquet floor, just a little section that it also has, it looks like it might have some windows and, or not windows, but mirrors for some ballet or yoga or something type of class that's
Yes.
a portion of it, or is
Yep.
that the downstairs?
No, it's upstairs.
Yeah, so they're going to still be able to do that activity with bigger classes instead of just that one little section?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion? The clerk will take the roll, please.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Beeden?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald.
Yes. We will now move on to, from the city manager, number 5, please.
Accepting the bid from Major League Landscaping and Lawn Care LLC in the amount of $1,860 per mow and trim of approximately 150 city-owned vacant lots, various city facilities, and public right-of-ways.
Do I have a motion?
So move.
Councilmember Ashford, is there a second?
Support.
Councilmember Pemberton, is there discussion? No discussion, the clerk will take the roll, please.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Beeden?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald.
Yes. We will move on to, from the city manager, number 6.
Accepting the bid from Thumb Welding and Repair LLC in the amount of $38,800 for the construction of a 35-foot gazebo at Knox Field.
Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
That was too quick. Councilmember Warden and Councilmember Ashford. Any discussion?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, just a quick update. I appreciate Nancy Windsor and the Parks and Recreation staff held 2 community meetings down at the Reinvestment Center to get community feedback on what they would like to have done, working with the generous donors of the Stebbins Family Fund. And they said, we're at the splash pad, and we have no place to get shade. And so this will build a 25,000 custom-built octagon gazebo just north of the splash pad so that families can have cookouts and, watch their kids play in the nice shade. And so that'll be a nice addition to the additional trees as well. I see, formerly here was Kevin Knox at the end. There he is. Kevin Watkins from the NAACP also voiced support for the project as well. And we appreciate the community coming out and giving their feedback. And we appreciate the generous contributions from the Stebbins Family Fund for this project.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Mayor Pro Tem,
Councilmember Harris?
I just noticed in the bidding and stuff on this is going to be a metal structure. And I watched the reconstruction of the Court Street tennis courts and stuff like that, and I know there's quite a mechanism to make sure that these facilities are grounded, and I just wanted to make sure that we have the similar precautions. This kind of stepping away from the composite building to go into a metal building, and that's all I need some kind of assurance that they're going to take care of that.
Madam Mayor, Councilman Harris, you bring up an excellent point. We did the same thing when we did the 2 steel structures at Lakeside Beach. Also noteworthy that these are powder-coated structures as well, so we don't have to go painting them every year.
Good, thank you.
Any further discussion?
Mayor Pro Tem.
Councilmember Warden?
Yeah, I just want to say it was involved in some of that. I want to compliment the Parks and Rec Department for stepping out to that neighborhood, getting community or neighbor buy-in. They kind of picked and gave feedback on what type of designs, and this gazebo type of thing was very high on the list, and I'm glad to see it's finally coming here to be built there. And also, I know thumb welding and repair with the lowest bid there, $8,000, roughly less than the second one. They've done some pretty good work around the city, so I appreciate that, and I'll be supporting this.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Yeah, Mayor, I just thought, I'd like to thank the Stebbins family, but to have that splash pad, when we had the splash pad, it was just there, no trees, no nothing that was brought before our council before. You just don't sit something there, and the kids, you used to ride by there, just one tree, they were all huddling under this one tree. And I'm thinking, now what is with this? And so last year, we did bring it to the attention of the management, and that needed to be there to be completed. You know, whatever you may think about it, whether it's too small or too little, they needed to finish the job, and this is finishing the job. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? The clerk will take the roll.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Beeden?
Yes?
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Ward?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald?
Yes. We'll now move on to resolutions. The clerk will read the first, please.
Authorizing 9 payments.
Do I have a motion?
So move.
Councilmember Ashford?
Second.
Councilmember Harris? Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will take the roll.
Councilmember Beeden?
Yep.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald?
Yes. We'll now move on to resolution number 2, please.
Approving the multi-year agreement with TMA Electrical LLC for professional as-needed electrical services.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Warden, is there a second?
Support.
Councilmember Pemberton, any discussion?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, there are some employees that when they leave, we say, we'll never be able to replace you, you're irreplaceable. Rob Hall / Sparky is one of those people who genuinely actually was irreplaceable. We cannot find a master electrician. If you know a master electrician, we are hiring. We cannot find a master electrician. I talked to Carrie Hefting at the county, and she says, when you find a master electrician, tell them we'll give them $10,000 more to walk across the street. That is how, so if you have children in the schools, encourage them to go into the skilled trades. We are now feeling that pinch here at the City of Port Huron. This professional service agreement will allow us to partner with a firm to obtain a master electrician when we need them for stuff at the wastewater plant, the water plant. You know, running a light in here is very simple, but when you're dealing with a 15 million gigawatt thing at the wastewater plant, you need a master electrician, and so this will allow us to obtain those services as much needed basis. So that is what that agreement is for, and we hope in the long run that maybe one day we'll find a master electrician.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
Councilmember Ashford.
Yeah, this resolution it's like a blank, and there's no cost associated, because I know that the job isn't called for yet, but can you give us a ballpark?
So it's on an hourly rate, and on page 56, they put in the hourly rate. So it's really going to be based on what we need. If we need a master electrician or journeyman electrician or an apprentice or a team of people to come in, it'll be based on the project size and scope, so we will budget that into the project cost going forward.
And what does that look like from your page 56?
Well, it depends.
Money-wise?
I don't have a total because we don't know.
I don't want a total, I just want a ballpark.
Yeah, so master electrician's $60 an hour, journeyman electrician's $55 an hour, apprentice is $35 rate, and that's actually pretty competitive rates for a master electrician.
Yeah, well, we just need to know that, what you're blanketing here.
Yep, correct.
Okay.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Mayor Pro Tem?
Councilmember Warden.
Again, try this out, again, with the skilled trades out there and the desire and need that we need here at the city, reaching a local, established, reputable firm. I just wanted to point out, it looks like we sent it out, proposal for RFP to 33 electrical contractors, and it looks like the city received only proposals from 4. And I'm just wondering who the other three were.
I can get that for you.
And again, at least that was a pretty widespread invite to see if they can step forward and want to participate, but at least getting 4 proposals back of interest that was, it's also for the benefit of the city.
As a reminder, with professional services, we do a qualifications-based assessment that the DPW does when any type of professional RFQ goes out. But we will get that for you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
I should have become electrician.
The clerk will take the roll, please.
You're young enough.
Yes, true.
Second career.
Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton.
Yes.
Councilmember Warden.
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford.
Yes.
Councilmember Beeden.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald.
Yes. We'll move on to resolution number 3, please.
Approving the 5-year agreement with Revised Software Systems Incorporated to provide website design and development and hosting services for the city's police, fire, and main websites.
Do you have a motion?
So
So moved.
Support.
Councilmember Pemberton and Councilmember Ashford. Thank you. Is there discussion?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, we have an incredible IT staff in the city of Port Huron that has built our entire IT infrastructure, whether it be our servers, our internal email servers, our intranet, which people don't get to see, but if you, for city staff goes on and does city functions, there's a whole intranet process for tracking jobs, and it's massive. Our IT director, Jim Brennan, built the website. He has built all the back end of it. He maintains it. He has saved us a remarkable amount of money with his expertise and skill. What began as, I believe that the functionality of our website is by far standard. It's excellent. But I want to make sure that we have a graphical interface and a design feature that we can use as a marketing tool. So when people come to our website, they have a really well-designed, great feel. I also want to focus on citizen engagement. And so I asked Jim, our IT director, and he's going to come up and explain this proposal for you, to look at a project that, one, increases a better user interface, a better experience visiting our website, addresses community engagement, staffing productivity, site administration, security features, and also eventually makes it more self-sufficient, so one day, should Jim decide to retire for a 4th time in his life, we would be able to continue maintaining a website on basis. Go for it.
I'll answer questions. I don't want to step on your applause line.
Go, sorry.
Oh, I do have one announcement. My son Timothy is a master electrician. You can't afford him.
Okay. Can you give us a quick overview of what this will provide us?
As Mr. Freed, Mayor Pro Tem and Council, as City Manager Freed has said, we've built the website internally for the past 10 or 11 years. And I think we've done a good job, but there's so many more things that a state-of-the-art website needs. It's really not in our best interest to continue to invent it. I mean, most people, when they think of social media engagement, we think it's a link to our Facebook page. No, it's the ability of people that are on the website to grab a piece of content, post it themselves, and send it around. And there's so many more things in addition to a very clean look and feel, which websites. Ours is kind of wordy, because the intent was to convey as much information to people who were looking for information. It's sort of, the whole concept is morphed into a marketing and a presentation of the city concept with way more pictures and images and things like that. So we had a number of presentations over the past few years with companies that did this. Revise is located in Troy on Crooks Road. I don't think that's a value judgment on who they are, but they're on Crooks Road. They put forward a proposal that made a lot of sense. They have done an awful lot of websites in the city or in the state of Michigan and around the country. So I thought that cost effectively, I thought they could do a good job. There's a number of tools that I have purchased. When you have 175 pages that other people can edit, we needed a spell checker, so twice a week. The outside firm spell checks our entire website, check it for broken links. ADA and WSAC or what rules on what a website has to do for the visually and audit. Well, let's just say that the people that need those services are very strict. They're changing all the time. It's a constant effort to keep that updated, but we want to be compliant. So based on all of those things, and by eliminating expenses we're already paying, we decided to recommend to you that we go out and get a third-party hostings and design and development company to take over that process. It's really about $2,200 extra a year. I mean, if the whole amount wasn't over the $5,800, which I can authorize, I would have done it myself. So anyway, I'm recommending that. I'll take any questions.
Any questions? Councilmember Ashford.
Was Gordon going?
Oh, I will.
I know you will. Go ahead.
But you're more than, they're taking over the hosting of this?
We're taking over the hosting. We currently have it hosted off-site with a company called Network Solutions.
Right.
They'll host it on their, they have 4 distinct web facilities. They'll host it there. They'll take over the backup. They'll take over the virus protection. They'll do all of that stuff, which I have to do manually currently. So there's just an awful lot of functionality that they'll be performing.
So are you going to be able to have access to, if you need the backup? I mean, since a lot of those service providers now actually do that, they say they have it, something goes down, it's nice to, will you have access anywhere for the backup, or are you going to have to wait for them to get back up and running to get restored?
We're primarily waiting for them. At that point, they have a 4-hour guarantee.
Okay.
Not exactly sure what happens if they don't meet that 4-hour guarantee, but in reviewing it with other people that have the service, their uptime is quite good.
And I see you mentioned Troy, Berkeley, Birmingham, and Oakland County, and some other municipalities use them.
Kentwood, Seguin, Texas, the city of, whatever.
That's okay.
I could get more references. But
Thank you for your effort in searching this new provider out. We'll give it a shot.
Okay.
Councilmember Ashford.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to somewhat congratulate you, to know when you can't go any further with something. It takes a big person to do that, to admit you need some more help in order to enhance for continuous improvement of what you already started, so they can build upon that. So I want to thank you for that. And I know that our system from sitting here was so antiquated, so we had to go somewhere, and you stepped up to make that happen. So that's not to be taken lightly. So, but what I want to know is that what they are going to do, and probably so if you're getting something more scale, you're going to scale with this and getting more service out of that to be able to operate a little bit better. Does our system, our application system or software, whatever it is, does it merge with anything else? Would it be able to do a lot more other?
The new system?
System, yeah, does it?
Will it have additional features we don't have now?
Yes.
Yes, it'll have a better forms management system.
Oh,
So we'll
okay.
be able to create forms that people can actually fill out, and
Wow.
instead of getting a PDF and submitting it, we'll be able to scrape the data right off it. We'll have the ability for, I had to come up with a number, but we'll have 12 users who can remotely update their content. It will have, let me just run down a quick look and see things that you might find interesting. It has a better document center. It has the ability for e-notification, enhanced job posting, interactive maps, a better calendar app,
Yeah.
so that we can have departmental calendars and merge them together. A notification center so people can sign up and say, be emailed if content changes on a particular page. Bid postings will be enhanced. Just all kinds of stuff.
No, that was, yeah, you
I
gave me
mean,
plenty.
and I could do any of those things. I can't do them all, and I actually, in my position, have other higher value
Right.
things that I should be doing.
No, and you shouldn't have to do them, and we need to invest in
But
something
anyway,
like
so
that.
I
yeah.
just think it's a solid recommendation.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Discussion? Councilmember Pemberton.
No questions, just want to again agree with you. Being pretty familiar with this stuff, it's a great price. I would charge us more to do it. I do this for a living, and it would cost more. And it's you've really scoped out the project super well. That's one of the biggest mistakes a lot of people make. Everyone has a brother or an uncle or a cousin who does websites, and people don't realize our website. I think you mentioned something about something being antiquated, or people may look at it and say, they don't like how it looks. It's a lot more than pretty pictures, and like you said, it is word heavy, and that's intentional. And there's a lot in the behind the scenes of our website that if you don't know it, you don't know how every little piece connects to another. And so there's a lot more to the system than I think people realize. And so I just say good job, and I fully agree with your recommendation.
Yeah, thank you.
Any further discussion?
I just want to thank Jim for going out there and researching this, and he did handle the "your child is ugly" conversation very well, so I appreciate that.
The clerk will take the roll, please.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Beeden?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald?
Yes.
Can I do something out of order because I have to go back up to the booth and continue my job?
You may.
I want to remind people that this Saturday is their St. Patrick's Day Parade. So the Irish American Club of St. Clair County invite you and everyone in our listening audience to come down. The parade's at noon. Thanks.
Thank you. We will move to resolution number 4, please.
Approving the request to vacate a portion of 4th Street right-of-way between Pine Street and Wall Street with a full-width public utility easement.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Ashford, is there a second?
Support.
Councilmember Pemberton. Discussion?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, this is a part of the parking plan that we are doing along 4th Street. We brought in all the property owners there, and as well as with the developer of the Harrington Inn Hotel, to develop a parking strategy that would create enough parking for that hotel, maintain through traffic on 4th Street, provide more angle parking along 4th Street. We're actually increasing parking all the way along 4th Street and up Wall Street as well. We will implement that parking signage in the spring. The reason why it hasn't been done quite yet is it's going to require 4th Street to become one-way, and I don't want to do that until the construction of the entrance of City Flats Hotel is complete, because there is intermittent closures of Water Street, and if we had gone in and shoehorned in the one-way right now, it would have created a huge bottleneck. And so that's why it'll be re-signed in the spring. I want to appreciate I would say we had close to 30 to 40 business, was that right, Natalie? We had a packed house of the business owners that came out and worked with the developer to develop a parking strategy. It was nice that there was agreement and consensus at the table, and so that's why you have no one here tonight to complain about it. So we appreciate that. Thank you to the business community that came out to do that.
Thank you. Any other discussion? The clerk will take the roll, please.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Beeden?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald?
Yes. We will move to resolution number 5. After the reading prior to a motion, I will announce what the top 10 goals are.
Adopting the City Council's list of goals and priorities for the 2019-20 fiscal year.
And those goals include revitalization of neighborhood programs, maintain focus on our downtown area and parking, promote tourism within the city and add additional signage designating neighborhoods and areas, continue focusing on the opioid epidemic and the proliferation and parameters for sober living homes, explore options for optimizing the city's fire stations, explore options for installing bike paths throughout the city, focus on improving the streets across our city neighborhoods, continue to explore options to relocate City Hall, attract businesses by focusing on the living wage and creating a diversified workforce, and respect for citizens, residents, homeowners, business owners, and employees of the city. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Harris, is there a second?
Support.
Councilmember Pemberton, is there discussion?
Mayor Pro Tem?
Councilmember Warden?
I just want to, again, the reason I pulled it off the consent agenda is actually the pretty important process that we went through. We had a very, I guess we had some very good citizen input into the session for us to consider. I thought it was outstanding for us, and hopefully we continue that and even maybe a little earlier get more and more involved, because they really came up with some great ideas for us to look for. I just want to make a comment, even though we're looking and the city manager has some goals that he's been working hard for us. The potential of the unfunded liabilities and potential for what the ramifications will be for hopefully we can get a portion of it bonded and what that might look like. I still wanted to make sure, the number one thing, or one of the things that I strongly suggested and keep it top of mind, is that we still need to be looking at how to pay more into that unfunded liability that has been aggressively growing. And I don't see it in the top 10, and I just think that that's still something that, just because there might be a little relief or potential deferment or that, we need to really be more still focused on behalf of the citizens on if we can do anything for that. On the opioid epidemic and the proliferation, the one thing is that, this new three-quarter home ordinance, the initial one just got put in place, and now we're starting to see how it kind of affects some of these, homes that are trying to file for that and do it. I think the real thing is we need to really make sure we work and put an awful lot of work and feedback and effort into development, how that initial three-quarter home will fit into the overall city's well-being, and that was a suggestion. I think it's kind of highlighted here, but I want to make sure not just the proliferation of it, we need to really see how is it going to fit in our overall city and how are we going to deal with that in different neighborhoods. And again, my concern, of course, is with, even though we have some dated fire stations in 3 different locations that, of course, would be great for us to look to see about potentially, what other, maybe a different location or shutting one or combining one. I am real concerned, and I think the people out there with their current financial situation, with an $18.75 million potential additional bill for having to relocate if we do, I don't think now is the time. I think we should be evaluating every little aspect of that before we do it, and I just hope that when you do focus on that we really look at what impact is it going to be of the response times, but also the city of Port Huron. We have one of the most attractive things when it comes to attracting new building or property owners into the city. We actually have a protection class 3, which goes across all levels of every property insurance cost for a building owner, for a homeowner, and that is an absolutely a very low rate, and any risk of that being increased to a 4 or 5 would definitely have a drastic impact on every single homeowner and property or building owner with a higher cost of insurance. So I hope we evaluate all that. I just wanted to make sure that those were some key points that we get on record here that we did put in, and I appreciate the process of us going through this, putting the goals together, and I will be in support of it.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Pro Tem,
Councilmember Harris.
I'd just like to thank the city clerk for getting me by a senior moment this morning as we were looking at this, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
You're welcome, Ken.
Any other discussion?
Madam Mayor, Pro Tem, I just want to point out that in December, the city treasury issued a $500,000 additional payment into the unfunded liability system to our pension fund. So we paid an additional $500,000. I think to this date, we've paid now $1.5 million additionally into the pension fund in the last 48 months. And Councilman Warden has my commitment that if we move a fire station, we will evaluate it for response times.
Thank you.
I would also like to point out that the financials and addressing the unfunded liabilities is not in the top 10 of the council's goals because it is in the city manager's goals. So it was already addressed there and would have been redundant for us to use up one of our 10 for that issue. Councilmember Ashford.
Yeah, and not only redundant, it's just that in a process when we're talking about goals and priorities and things like that, well, it actually rolls into that as a council because we're his boss. And so we have to do everything that we have to do in order to support those goals. And when the council lends itself to picking goals, is actually at the touches of the citizens, what they've heard out there, some things that you want to do that kind of like low-hanging fruits that you can get to. But the big stuff is James, and we want to make sure that we hold him accountable for doing that. Right, James?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. The clerk will take the roll, please.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Beeden?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald?
Yes. We will move to resolution number 8, please.
Recommending the Michigan Liquor Control Commission approve above all others the application of Port Huron Hospitality Holdings LLC, doing business as City Flats Port Huron, 800 Military Street, 405 Water Street, for a Class C license pursuant to Public Act 501 of 2006.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Warden, is there a second?
Support?
Councilmember Beeden, any discussion?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, it was corrected from 802 military to 800 military in the corrected application. That's all that's been done.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem, I just wanted to
Councilmember
take
Warden.
this effort or time here to, City Flats, they've been constantly working at that building, and, we have outstanding other people renovating as well, making our town and city with that great investment. So I just wanted to, again, this is something that for City Flats, fully approved for them getting their liquor license application through, if we can do that, because it's going to be an outstanding, another wonderful piece to our revitalized downtown. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? The clerk will take the roll, please.
Councilmember Beeden?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald?
Yes. We will move on to ordinances. The clerk will read ordinance number 1, please.
An ordinance to amend Chapter 52 zoning, Article 3, District Regulations of the Port Huron Code of Ordinances to allow existing single-family dwellings as a principal permitted use and reconstruction if accidentally destroyed.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Ashford, is there a second?
Support.
Councilmember Pemberton, is there any discussion?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem and Council, this is just a very simple, common-sense approach. So we have homes that are in the CB district that have just been overlaid over the years, for instance, along Superior. If one of those homes burned down, technically they can't rebuild it, which means they can't get a bank loan. So by allowing homes that are already there, if they burn to the ground or an act of God destroys them, you can rebuild them. That is so banks will give these people loans to buy these homes. And so that's pretty much why we're doing it.
Any other discussion? The clerk will take the roll.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Beeden?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald?
Yes. That concludes the business of our regular meeting. We do have one announcement. Winter decorations in Lakeside Cemetery must be removed from the cemetery plots by March 31st. Removal of remaining items by cemetery personnel will begin on April 1st. Also, I'd like to take this opportunity to, on behalf of myself and my fellow council members, to congratulate Councilmember Pemberton and his wife Jolene on the birth of their beautiful baby girl, and I will let him give the specifics.
Yes, thank you. So our new Port Huron resident is Lillian Alexandria Pemberton, and she was born Friday night at 9:30 p.m., 6 pounds, 11 ounces, and her lungs work really well.
Does anyone else on council have anything they'd like to mention?
Mayor Pro Tem.
Councilmember Harris.
I know during the fall, we had a recognition of a group in Port Huron and stuff, and I'd just like to have everybody recognize that the Port Huron Northern hockey team was the regional champion this year. We're appreciative enough that one of the coaches is the city assessor for the city of Port Huron, and I just thought it's a great accomplishment. It's a big step for these boys, and they deserve the recognition. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mayor Pro Tem?
Councilmember Warden.
I just want to thank everybody that came down here tonight, citizens to come forward to share some input with some different matters. It was wonderful. We definitely appreciate it. And also reaching out to us for different issues, whether it was an email or letting us know about some thoughts or concerns or suggestions. I want to thank them. This past, or let me just say upcoming